I got a really special gift this past week from some friends, which I wanted to share with people on YouTube. So I'm starting to feel like I have people on YouTube. We've been making videos for more than a year, but at first we just made them about once a month. We made it very topical, very much based on something. But lately we've been checking in every single Wednesday with either an update on our house that we're building or with something where we're talking about what we believe or why we live off the grid. And people are responding to that, so I'm starting to feel like we have some people. So I wanted to tell you the exciting thing that happened in my life this past week, which is that I received a book. Now I'm going to show it to you. You can see it's kind of an old book. You can see that every chapter is a different color. So this book was written by my mother, Carla Emery, and this copy was printed in 1974, which is 5 years before I was born. This is a manual for living a self-sufficient lifestyle, living a life close to the land and knowing where your food comes from. It also has a lot of what people now might call survivalism, ways to get along when you don't have town ways of doing things. And my mother was actually quite well known in the mid-70s for being an expert in these matters, self-sufficiency and survivalism to me. So these books, the first several editions of the old-fashioned recipe book, as it was called then, were mimeographed and collated all in a living room. Of course, this is 5 years before I was born. But my mother self-published, and she sold them at craft fairs. And she really had her own business and was very self-reliant in that way. There are very, very easy, short recipes dotted through and lots of photos. That's our friend Imogen, who was a teacher to my mom in Julietta, Idaho, back in the day. When I turn the pages in this book, it's like my mother is still alive. Her voice just jumps right off the pages. The current editions have a little less of her kind of social narrative. I mean, she wrote just like a blogger does now. She's always telling you what kind of a day she was having right in between the recipes and the how-to advice. And she was a very spiritual woman, so there's a lot of spiritual advice in here too. There she is. People sometimes tell me I look like her. Since my mother passed away, people have used words like prescient or even prophetic to describe her work. Because in the 1970s, she was aware of problems with our food supply that are now common knowledge for those who care to know, in terms of how meat is produced or the problems with GMO crops. So it would be great if I had just taken my mother's wisdom and made my own life out here in the woods and that were just a straight line, but of course that isn't how it happened at all. I was just chatting with some friends about how teenagers always want to go their own way, and I certainly wanted to go my own way. When I was a teenager, I thought my mother was extremely embarrassing. I remember one particular occasion at a county fair when she was teaching a workshop on how to butcher a chicken, and I just thought this is the most horrifying thing ever, to have a mother who teaches a workshop on butchering a chicken. I pretended we were not related. I pretended I didn't know her. And then I went into the city and I lived my city life, and it wasn't until after my mother passed away in 2005, so she's been gone 10 years now, that I had kids and some changes happened in my marriage, and my husband and I decided that what we really wanted was to live a life off the land, which actually is very similar to my mom. So I also have this copy of my mother's book, which was printed in the 1990s. This is one that I received when I was a teenager. Or maybe I might have been just beginning college when I received this copy. And this is mine that's beat up and signed. There's the signature to Esther with Love, Mom. So another conversation I was just having with my friend this week is that kids do come home, and I do feel like I've really come home to the things that my mother taught me, the values that my mother raised me with. It was a hard and kind of heavy thing to be raised by a person who had such an unflinching view of what's wrong with our food supply and the advantages of living a life which is a much more challenging and hard scrabble lifestyle. But I have come around, and I have a husband who is committed to a similar value system. So thanks for being our YouTube people. Thanks for being our friends on YouTube. And I hope that if you are interested in getting more self-sufficient, getting off the grid, getting out of town, that I hope you're encouraged in that. And I wish you well. Oh, and get a copy of this book if you don't have one already. It's really helpful. Hi, Christy. Got something to say? No.